Aita for walking away from my family after my mom drained my finances, favored my brothers over me, and threatened to turn the whole family against me. Until a month ago, I, 33 years old, female, had not spoken to my mother or most of my extended family for over 2 years. The brief version of the story is this. I purchased a home for my mother, 63 years old, female, and my brothers, 36 years old, male, and 40 years old, male, to reside in under the condition that they would care for it and manage the monthly expenses. Instead, they neglected payments, depleted my bank account, and left me to pay months of overdue utilities and a significant homeowners association fine. My brother and his girlfriend, now wife, even took substantial appliances when they moved out. My husband and I were left with an overcrowded, filthy house that required over a year to clean and repair. Now, I am relocating overseas for at least 3 years, potentially beginning my own family there, and I grapple with the feeling that I do not even wish for my mother to be a part of it. I continue to feel conflicted and wounded because she acknowledged that assisting my brothers was more essential than assisting me, even though I was the one providing for everyone. The extended version. Shortly after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, I found myself isolated in my apartment, working from my living room for more than a month. I noticed that interest rates were low, and I thought this might finally be my opportunity to help my family secure a stable home. We lost our childhood home during the 2008 financial crisis, and my family had been moving between rentals ever since. I called my mother, inquired about her preferred location to live, and initiated the process. I allowed her to choose the house, collaborated with my friend who acted as the agent, and I covered the down payment and closing expenses. The agreement was straightforward. I would acquire the house using my credit and funds, and they would be responsible for the monthly mortgage and their living costs. It was my way of contributing to the family. I didn't boast about it or share it widely, only confiding in those nearest to me. If anyone inquired, I told them it was my mother's house, not mine. We moved in, and I initially assumed all expenses: mortgage, insurance, homeowners association fees, and utilities. When my mother changed jobs, I continued to bear these financial burdens for approximately 6 months, feeling trapped. However, she then insisted on home renovations, painting, new flooring, fixtures, charging them to my credit card with assurances of reimbursement that never occurred. Subsequently, I accepted a pay cut to start a new job that was better for my mental well-being, and the financial pressure became intolerable. I resided in the smallest room, lacked a car, and struggled to afford food, while my mother earned more than I did and still offered no assistance. She was merely spending all her income supporting my other brothers, 34 years old, male, apartment, and financially aiding her only grandson, 8 years old, male, while mismanaging the rest on her hobbies and personal interests, for which I was fined $1,300 by the Homeowners Association. I realized that as long as I remained there, she would compel me to manage the payments. I gently urged them to take responsibility by moving out of the house. 8 months after purchasing the home, I relocated closer to my workplace and gradually furnished a new apartment, eager to return to a healthier routine. Yet, every few months, my mother inexplicably stopped sending money for the mortgage. I would only discover this when I noticed my account depleting. When I confronted her, she would guilt-trip me or promise to pay later, but this cycle persisted. In the last 2 months of my lease, she sent no funds at all. I could not afford to renew my apartment lease while also covering the mortgage, so I was forced to sell everything and move back into the smallest room of the house, despite paying for the entire property. A few months later, my mother chose to leave her job to return to her former employer, claiming it would enable her to earn more money to assist me with the house, although I recognized this as false. She failed to send me any funds. The truth was that she did not want to adapt her lifestyle to accommodate a lower salary. After she departed, my husband and I attempted to move into the master bedroom, which only contained her vacant furniture, but she reacted angrily. She demanded that we remove her furniture so that my brother could sell it, rather than allowing us to utilize it. She was infuriated by the mere suggestion that I could move into her room and preferred to let my brother's dogs occupy that space, even though I was the one financially responsible for the entire house. She threatened to turn the entire family against me, stating that I would become the next black sheep, like my uncle who abandoned his wife on her deathbed, and she would ensure it happened. I was stunned and could not fathom the way she was treating me. 2 weeks later, one of my brothers and his girlfriend left abruptly, stealing my washer, dryer, kitchen appliances, and half of my workout equipment. They left behind a mountain of trash, unpaid bills, and a garage filled to the ceiling with boxes containing rotting food and mouse droppings and urine that ruined everything. My brother's girlfriend objected to him killing the mice. My husband and I spent days clearing it out, unearthing ruined family photographs, mementos, awards passed down through generations, and everything else completely destroyed. My eldest brother remained and assisted me with the mortgage each month as part of renting his room. To complicate matters further, my mother contacted my best friend and likely every family member to propagate falsehoods about my husband, alleging that she did not trust him, that he was using me, and that he was probably being unfaithful. She explained to her that my brothers required more assistance than I did, and insinuated that I was selfish for not being willing to cover all the expenses, even though I could not afford it, nor did she explicitly ask me to assume that responsibility. Only my best friend informed me of what she was saying about me. Not a single family member reached out to check on me or hear my side of the story. They merely told her to let me learn from my mistakes, yet I could feel their judgment whenever I was near them. Throughout all of this, my husband was my anchor. He dedicated himself to repairing the house, providing emotional support, and helping me maintain my stance. Our first years of marriage should have been filled with love and adventure, but instead, we were entangled in a home we had not chosen, and a mountain of issues we had not created. Without him, I might have continued sacrificing myself to my family's toxicity. When I blocked my mother and my brother with the girlfriend, I clearly communicated to my other brothers that without an apology, I would never engage with them again, and I have remained no contact all this time. My mother finally reached out 2 years later to my eldest brother, around Christmas, requesting him to inform me that she wanted to talk and mend things. When we finally spoke, she only called to obtain some information she needed, then tried to end the conversation without even extending an apology. When I confronted her about this, she defensively asserted, "I already said I'm sorry," only after I pointed out that she had never actually stated it. She minimized everything, claiming that the family contacted her, not the other way around, as if that negated the fact that she had shared her perspective with them. I told her that the harm was done. I would maintain the few relationships I still valued, but I wanted no involvement with the family as a whole. I, who was often perceived as a leader and an extension of my mother, would have been among the few in the family capable of uniting everyone and bridging the gap between younger cousins and older uncles. However, I have absolutely no desire to be that person anymore. I mourned the loss of my family for 2 years. I grieved the idea that all my success and hard work were meant to support them, only to be betrayed. However, I now feel prepared to let go entirely. I am aware that when I start my own family and welcome my first child, she will likely feel hurt if I do not include her. Yet, at this moment, I do not want her to be involved. I am simply uncertain about what the right course of action is or whether it even matters after everything she has done. Am I being unreasonable and holding a grudge? Is it wrong to completely disengage? Or am I simply finally shielding myself from individuals who will never take responsibility for the profound pain they have caused me? Story 2. Boyfriend doesn't show emotion anymore. Advice. So, here's the backstory. Apologies for the length. I am a 41-year-old female and first encountered him, a 37-year-old male, 25 years ago. I was close friends with his older brother, and we spent a considerable amount of time together. I know his entire family. He always had a significant crush on me and expressed his desire to marry me. I also liked him, but he was only 14 or 15 years old, while I was 18 or 9. At that stage in life, that's a considerable age difference, and I couldn't envision a relationship since I was moving into adulthood while he was often in serious trouble. He was quite the rebellious child. Moreover, which 19-year-old girl would consider marrying a 15-year-old boy? Absolutely not. I also didn't want to hurt his brother or come between them, considering that his brother also harbored feelings for me. My goodness, it sounds like a drama from a Lifetime movie, and I'm not even that attractive. Eventually, I had a falling out with his brother, and we lost contact. When my boyfriend turned 20, he moved back down south with his family to escape the negative influences in his life and to improve his circumstances, as he didn't want to end up in jail like many of his friends. Years later, I attempted to reach out to him via social media, but when he inquired if I was married and had children, and I responded affirmatively, he abruptly cut off communication without further replies. I never even had the opportunity to inform him that I was divorced. Fast forward to last year, I experienced an intense and overwhelming urge to find him because I had never ceased thinking about him and couldn't shake the thoughts. I eventually located him and reached out. I felt anxious because I was uncertain if he would even wish to converse with me, given our last interaction, but I knew I had to give it a shot. He called me within minutes, and we engaged in conversation for over an hour. I later confessed that I had always had feelings for him, which led to the development of a long-distance relationship. He admitted that he was too immature as a teenager to fully understand his feelings for me, but that I am the only girl he has ever loved. He never married, stating that it never appealed to him, nor did he have children, mostly remaining single throughout his adult life. In contrast, I have kids and have gone through marriage a couple of times, both ending in divorce due to issues related to alcoholism and physical abuse. This heightened his jealousy, as he felt it should have been him. Thus far, our relationship has been wonderful. It feels like we resumed where we left off as teenagers. He matured into an incredible, responsible man who makes me laugh more than anyone else ever has. We share so many common interests that it's almost eerie, and I am completely smitten with him. My primary concern is that I have always felt completely safe with him, both emotionally and physically, which is significant considering my previous abusive experiences. However, in the initial months, he was exceedingly affectionate towards me, displaying intense love. We discussed the future, including plans for me and my children to move down there to be with him. Regrettably, I cannot relocate yet, as I need to resolve some pending matters first, so it likely won't happen until early summer. As a result, I am somewhat stuck here, forced into a long-distance relationship. One unresolved issue is that I am still enduring a contentious divorce with my abusive ex-husband. This situation has been ongoing for a long time, but it is nearing its conclusion. After the first month of rekindling our closeness, he purchased a stunning and expensive engagement ring, stating, "I told you I would marry you one day. I would marry you tomorrow if I could." He hasn't presented it to me, yet since I'm still entangled in my divorce, which is understandable. I'm unsure if what transpired could be characterized as love bombing, but he was incredibly affectionate and loving initially, although that intensity has dwindled after a few months. I am a deeply emotional person and a hopeless romantic. When I inquired about the shift in his behavior, he mentioned, "I'm not really an emotional, feelings-based person." Presently, he exhibits minimal emotions or affection. He no longer discusses the future with me either. If I bring it up, he'll say, "Hurry up and get here," and that's the extent of his response if he remarks at all. He comments on plans for the future as if I'm not making arrangements to move down there. He also rarely mentions marriage now. When we met in person, the time we shared was fantastic. He was very affectionate and tactile face-to-face. However, he is not verbally as engaged on the phone or during FaceTime. Since we don't have the opportunity to see each other often, I feel as though I'm grasping for tiny fragments of affection to recapture that feeling of love. Occasionally, he will say something sweet, and I feel giddy, thinking, "Oh, a little scrap." I desperately crave physical intimacy, and in its absence, I feel a need for verbal affirmation, which I lack. We still communicate through texts and FaceTime during our free time, and we fall asleep together on FaceTime each night. He reaches out to me at work, so it's not that he's distant, he simply doesn't express affection or emotion. I suffer from significant anxiety, which makes the absence of physical affection or reassurance frustrating. This situation has left me feeling needy. We argued about this because my anxiety escalated and I was upset, so I confronted him about the changes in his behavior. I questioned why he bought a ring and then stopped discussing the future. He became angry and stated, "There are things I want to do, but I can't because you're still married." Consequently, I no longer bring it up, as it seems to agitate him that I am still in the divorce process. I sense that in his mind, I cannot fully belong to him until I am officially divorced, and he has already waited so long for us to reunite. I feel guilty and somewhat selfish because, in my heart, I am completely his and he is mine, yet he is emotionally closed off now. I am at a loss, feeling terrible as I cling to those emotional fragments. For instance, last night he mentioned, "You need to be here to cuddle and spoon with me." I was overjoyed. Just scraps. I will be with him for a week in a couple of weeks, and I am incredibly excited, but I still contend with this anxiety that I can't seem to alleviate. To summarize, have his feelings for me changed, and is that the reason for his altered behavior? Is he genuinely not an emotional person, or is the divorce influencing his emotional distance? I realize I sound needy and irrational, but that's anxiety for you. Any insights would be appreciated.